In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create this beautiful, adorable tatty teddy. This is trending at the moment, and it just adds that little bit more character to your teddy toppers. So I really hope that you're going to enjoy this tutorial. Okay, so everything that you're going to need for this tutorial is going to be some sugar paste. Now I've got some white. We're going to color this up and I'm going to show you the colors that you're going to need. For this, I'm just using the Massa Ticino. This is the Mona Lisa range, and I find that this sugar paste is really nice and firm. We are just going to be using some some Color Splash, and this is Color Latte. We're just going to need a little bit of extra white sugar paste, which we're not going to color, and just a tiny bit of black. We are just going to need a bamboo stick and just some of these tools here. So this is just one with a point on it with the cone shape, and this one here. We are going to need some scissors, so some very small scissors, a foam mat. Now, Tylose powder, what you can do is if you are using something other than Massa Ticino and your sugar paste is quite soft, then you can add in 1 teaspoon for every 250 grams of sugar paste, and that's going to firm it up. Just going to need some clippers as well and some water with a brush. So the first thing we want to do is we want to actually go ahead and color up this sugar paste. So I've got a small amount here. And this is, if I put this into a circle, I would say it's about 3-inch round. So we don't need too much, and I'll probably have some left over as well. So I'm just gonna whack on my gloves, which I like to do before I am coloring any sugar paste. Just saves you getting stained hands from the colors. So what you wanna do is just start to kind of knead it first, just so it's nice and pliable and soft. And I'm not going to add any Tylose to this because mine is very firm. It's a very cold day and it's very cold in my kitchen, so my sugar paste is nice and firm. We're going to add in. Now, you can add more as you go along, but obviously you can't take it away. So you want to start off with a small couple of drops, and then let's see what kind of color we get. So I found that this color is beautiful. It gives you a really nice kind of warm sort of latte color, which is lovely for the bears. We don't want them too dark. So I'm just pulling it back and forth just to incorporate all of the color. Now that's still looking quite light to me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a little bit more to this. So we do want it a little bit darker. And I've probably added the same amount again. The easiest way to sort of incorporate the color is bring it out and tuck it in. Stretch it out and bring it in. Now also, one big note that I'm going to tell you as well is that sugar paste, when you're coloring it, it does darken. So let's just say you color this in advance. When you leave it about an hour to 2 hours, the color does intensify. So you might want to just stop when it's a tad lighter than what you'd want it, and it will kind of get a bit darker. So this is still quite light, and I'm going to add in the same amount again, probably a little bit more, just to get a bit more of an intense color. Okay, that's looking more like it now. So we're getting a nice kind of brown, as you can see. What I'm I'm gonna actually do is, I've got the color there now, I'm gonna add the tiniest bit of dark brown. So I've just got here some brown, which is, you can use any brown. This is by Pro Gel. I'm gonna just dab on 1, 2 little bits, and this is gonna give me the perfect color, just to intensify it ever so slightly. If I went ahead and just used the brown on its own, I don't get the correct color that I want. So I'm quite particular when it comes to these bears, and I like it to be a nice, warm, not too dark. Just gonna grab some of the color on the table there. And this is the perfect color that we want our bear to be. So just make sure that it is really fully incorporated. You can't see any streaks. And once you've done that, we are now gonna start on modeling the bear. So the first thing we want to do is we want to model the actual body. Now you're gonna want this to dry for a good few hours before you even attempt to put the head on. So what I'm gonna do is, now we don't want the body to be overly big. And I've got a ruler here because I'm going to measure how tall it should be. So we want to start off by just kneading this, making sure that there's no kind of lines. And then what you want to do is, just to eliminate these lines here, you want to press quite firmly, and you want to start to roll, and you want to be quite firm. That's going to get rid of any lines that you've got in your sugar paste. And then once you've done that, then we can start off and roll this into a ball shape. Okay, so we've got a nice ball. Then what we want to do is put it in between our hands, and we're going to roll this into a cone. But what we want is, we want this to be fairly pointed. And it's going to look something like this. Now, if I measure this, it's quite thin as well. It's not too wide. If I measure this, this is approximately just under 3 inches. And I would say in centimeters, it's about 6.5 centimeters. And then we're just going to stand that up here. We're just going to leave that alone for a second. And then what we want to do is, we are going to create a round circle for the head. Now with this bear, the head of it is quite a lot bigger. So we're just going to take some sugar paste, and I'm going to knead it. Make it nice and flat. I'm really putting a lot of pressure on the sugar paste in between my hands. So this is what really helps get rid of all the lines. Now the size of the head that we want, I would say even a little bit bigger than this. So I'm just going to add on a bit more. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to weigh this for you, just so you've got an approximate guide. It's 52 grams for the head. And then what we want to do is, we just want to make it flat. Now with this element here, even if you do have a few lines, it doesn't really make a difference on this kit, because we're going to create that tatty effect. So this, I have now, probably, I would say it's about 2.5 inches. It's about 2.5 inches wide. That's the size of the head that we want. Now, the first thing we're going to do is, before we go ahead and create the arms and the legs, is we are going to create that effect, which gives it like the tatty teddy, the fur effect. So what you want to do is we're going to do the front first, and I've got my scissors here. Now I'm going to hold them this way rather than how you would normally hold scissors. I just find it a lot easier like so. What we're going to do, we are going to start off by just snipping in very, very small sections, and I'm just being very random, but I'm doing them quite close together, okay? So I'm going in different directions. And what is going to give you, and we want to pull it, I'm pulling it up just to kind of look, so it looks like the fur effect. And I'm going to do this now all the way on the front. As you can you see I'm just going in loads of different directions and quite close together, so I'm not leaving any kind of big gaps. And make sure that, you know, you have got every single bit covered. But when you are doing the sides, what you don't want to do is you don't want to put this to this side, because it will just squash everything up. So we're going to do the front. We're going to just gently do the sides without touching the front with your hands. As you can see, I'm going around the sides now. I'm just going to clean my scissors. Okay, and when it comes to doing the back, what we want to do is we actually want to stand it up, okay, and then we want to just go ahead and just gently holding it from the top, we want to go ahead and do the back. But you don't want to touch the front at all. So I'm not going to do the back fully, but as you know, you would just go ahead and do the back exactly how I've done the front, but standing it up without kind of touching the front. Now, it doesn't really make too much of a difference if you hold it after you've done the back, because most of the time we're not going to see the back. It's going to be sitting against the cake. So you don't want to worry too much about that, but really it's the front, the sides, which need to look. I'm just pulling up, just make sure you're really pulling up just to get that kind of fur. Okay, and then if you find that it's slightly widened, you can just make it a little bit, just reshape it again. And then that is the front. And then we are going to do exactly the same thing for the head. So just starting off in really small sections. Really take your time with this, so you're really, you know, keeping them very close together, section by section. This type of effect as well, it adds all the difference to the bear, because, and this is really, really trending at the moment, this type of tatty teddy. They do look absolutely brilliant. A little bit more work involved, but it does look absolutely brilliant, especially if you've got 2 or 3 on your cake. Okay, as you can see, we're starting to get that really nice effect. Just going to go in and do the sides. Making sure that it's still a nice round shape. And before you do the sides, just make sure that you just put it back into shape if it has moved slightly out of shape. Now the way you would do the back, again, we don't want to squish the front at all. So what you can do is just grab a cocktail stick or a bamboo stick, and you can just literally insert that, and then you can just sort of hold it, and then you can do the back like so. And again, I'm not gonna sit here doing the entire back. You've got the idea that you wanna get it like the front there. Now, I just don't feel like I've got enough sort of fur coming out, so I'm just gonna do it a little bit more, and I'm pulling up just to get that nice effect. Okay, perfect. So before we even put this onto the body, we're not going to do that just yet, because this really you want to dry for at least 3 or 4 hours, so it's nice and solid. So I'm just going to put that down. And then what we'll do is let's work on the actual face. So now I mentioned that you just need some white, but what we're going to do is we are just going to grab some of the white, and we're going to grab a tiny bit of that brown. We are just going to mix this up. So we want it to be a much lighter shade than the head and the body and the arms and legs. This is going to be for the mouth area. So it is significantly lighter. I'm just kneading that all together. Then what I'm going to do, now we just need a really small piece here, and it's the size of, I would say it's about 1/2 inch round, just over 1/2 inch. And then what you want to do is we're just going to push that down into a circle like so. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to find the front of our head, and that's going to be the top half, that's the bottom half, just so you can see. And then what we want to do is we just want to place a little bit of water. Now you want to make sure that you are doing this before the actual head dries, because it's a lot easier to stick on. And then what we want to do is we want to go ahead and place that just there on the bottom half, and just gently press that down. And then what we want to do is we're just going to get this tool here. We are just going to, before we add the nose on, we're just going to create a line from the top, so not all the way, like so. And then we want to create the mouth area. So we're going to give it a surprise look by using this cone. We're just going to push down like so. Then we want to add the eyes on. The eyes are going to sit directly above the mouth area. These are going to be very, very small, the tiniest, tiny size. But actually what we'll do first, well, let's do the nose. We want to get a really small piece. You want to create almost like a diamond or a triangle. So it's almost sort of that shape there. We're just going to add a little bit of water just at the top, and we're just going to place the nose like so. And then we're going to add the eyes on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the smallest black, like so, and just make sure that they are equal sizes, otherwise it will just look a bit odd. Okay, and then just, I'm going to brush some water on the actual eyes. I think it's just going to be easier to get them on. And then what we want to do, we're going to put the eyes they're so small and so fiddly. I'm just going to use my paintbrush to sort of guide it. Doesn't want to go on. There you go. So we're going to put one there, and we're going to allow a gap, and we're going to put the next one like so. I'm just going to turn this around a second. There you go, and the eyes are now on there. And then what we're going to do, we are going to do the whites of the eyes. So I've just got a cocktail stick. I've got my Colour Mill white, give it a little shake. You can use any kind of white for this. I'm just going to insert the cocktail stick into the white. Really small dot here in the center of the eye, like literally the smallest dot there. And we'll do one there. Just going to grab a bit more of the white. And that's your face done. And then I'm just going to brush some of the pink luster onto the cheeks. So again, this is just Shell Rose that I like to use. And I never ever dip my brush into the luster. I'm just going to put it onto the lid. Really tap off the excess. We don't want it to be so prominent. We just want it to be very subtle. And don't push down too hard. Just, you've got to imagine if you're putting blusher on your face and you want it to be nice and subtle, not too kind of overpowering. And there you have it. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and do the legs. So I'm going to grab some of this sugar paste, and the legs are going to be nice and flat from the end. So what we want to do is we want to grab 2 pieces about that size there. I'll try and weigh it for you, and I'll see if I can get 6 grams each. And now what we want to do is roll both of them into a circle, and we want to actually just start to use this finger here just to make it narrow. So we're tapering it so it looks like this. But what we want to do is with this bit, we just want to really go ahead and flatten this. Okay, so it's nice and flat and it looks like this. And exactly the same on the other one. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing, get that effect on the legs and the feet. Just make sure that your scissors are clean and you haven't got any of the dry bits on there. It's just going to make it a bit difficult. So I'm just picking some of that just to give it that nice effect. And then you want to do it all the way on the top. You don't need to do it as much on this bit here because you're not really going to see this bit. Okay, like so. Okay, and then what we want to do is let's attach it onto the body. So we're just going to, so they want to sit like this on either side. So I'm just going to place some water just on the side there. And the same thing on this side. And then what you can do is once they're on the actual body, you can do the tops here as well, because it's now easier just to do the top bits. Just make sure they are stuck on and you've got enough water. And then what we want to do is we're going to do the arms. So the arms are probably going to be just ever so slightly smaller. Again, roll them into a ball. And with the arms, I would say measuring them about 4 grams. And then again, we want to just do that thing where we're tapering. So I've just tapered it and it looks like this. So it's slightly wider from the bottom, thinner from the top. And again, before they go onto the actual body, we're just going to create that effect where we're just going to pick with the scissors. Again, you don't need to do the underneath really, because that's, you're not going to be able to see that bit. And the same with the other one. And then let's just add some water. And then what we want to do is we're going to place the arm here. So it's starting from where the top is there. We're just going to place it like so and just coming down. And the second arm, we can just do it sort of, rather than coming in, just straight down. Okay, and again, when it's on the body, you can just pick. You have to do this when it's wet. If once the sugar paste dries, you can't actually go ahead and do that effect because it won't work. Just gonna put a bit of water there because this is just wants to slide down. And now what I'm going to do, so you would leave this to dry now for a good few hours, but I'm just going to show you. So I'm going to twist this in, and you want to twist this in first actually, even before you allow it to dry. Make sure it's not coming out the bottom. We're going to snip off, just allowing about, I would say 1.5 inches. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to put the head on. Like so. Okay, and then we can go ahead and do the ears. So for the ears, we're gonna get 2 same-sized balls, quite small. And then we're just gonna flatten them and flatten them. And then again, we want to create that nice effect. And what I'm going to do is before they go on, I'm just going to snip off a very, very small amount from the end, just so it's nice and flat, and so it will sit on the bear's head nicely. And then we're just going to grab some water, place it on the side that you've cut. And then we're just going to stick the ears on at this kind of distance, so they're not too close together. And just make sure everything is nice and secured on. And there you have the most adorable tatty teddy for your cakes. Really, really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial.